On this day in 1890, Celtic played their first ever Scottish Football League match. Or did they? The Scottish Football League was formed towards the end of season 1889-90 in an era of amateurism in Scotland, while professionalism had been legalised in England 5 years before. Believing the creation of the league to be a Trojan horse to pave the way for professionalism in Scotland, Queen's Park, the biggest and most successful club in the country, remained aloof and only finally joined the league in 1900 when they were parachuted straight into the top division. Celtic chairman John McLaughlin was in the forefront of moves to create the league, and the 11 founder members who started the inaugural campaign in August 1890 were 3rd LRV, soon to be known simply as 3rd Lanark, Abercorn, Cambuslang, Celtic, Cowlairs, Dumbarton, Hearth of Midlothian, Rangers, Renton, St Mirren, Vale of Leven. Celtic's first ever league match took place against Renton at Celtic Park on the 16th of August 1890, and they lined up McLaren, Reynolds, McKeown, P. Gallagher, Kelly, Dowds, H. Gallagher, Naughton, Madden, Groves, Crossan. Renton had won the Scottish Cup just 2 years before and topped that off with a 4-2 victory over FA Cup winners West Bromwich Albion at Second Hampden in May 1888 to claim the title of world champions. But even by August 1890, they were a shadow of their former selves, having lost James Kelly and Neil McCallum to Celtic and a host of others to the professional game in England. They were not expected to present too many problems for Celtic that day, so the result was something of a shock. The Dundee Courier reported on the 18th of August 1890, "About 10,000 spectators testified to the importance of the event. It was thought that the Celtic would make sad work of the new team from the Dumbartonshire village, as James McCall is the only man left of the old Renton. In fact, the club have lost no fewer than 25 players." The shock 4-1 victory recorded by Renton can perhaps best be explained by, amongst other changes, the bizarre decision of the Celtic committee to play Jimmy McLaren in goal. McLaren was actually a halfback of the highest quality, nicknamed the General, and one of the host of Hibernians players who decamped to the East End of Glasgow in the summer of 1888. In a side that also included James Kelly, McLaren captained Scotland against England at the Kennington Oval in 1889 and scored one of the goals in Scotland's 3-2 win, making him the first Celtic player to score against England. Kelly also hit the back of the net in that match, but the referee had already blown the half-time whistle just as he unleashed his shot, so he was denied that distinction. The Edinburgh Evening Dispatch reported the day before the game against Renton, "The shifting of McLaren from half-back to goal will surprise many, while it will, no doubt, excite amusement in a few." The majority of the reported 10,000 crowd were far from amused as Renton took an immediate lead, the Glasgow Herald of the 18th of August 1890 reporting, "The Celtic kicked off with the wind against them and had a beautiful pass to start with. One of the Renton half-backs, however, intervened, and the ball being sent well down the field was kicked straight into goal. McLaren rushed out, and before he could get back, Cameron shot a beautiful goal for Renton a minute from the start." Before 20 minutes had elapsed, Renton were 3-0 ahead, and the Dundee Courier reported, "McLaren, the international half-back and captain, kept goal for Celtic, but he acquitted himself wretchedly." Hugh Gallagher scored Celtic's first ever league goal on 35 minutes, and although they improved in the second half with the wind behind them, it was Renton who scored again, the Glasgow Herald hinting Jimmy McLaren was again at fault. "The Celtic had unquestionably the best of the play in the second half. In fact, they seldom allowed Renton, who although playing well, had undoubtedly all the luck that was going, to get over the centre line. The Renton goalkeeper played a very clever game. After 35 minutes play, Renton scored their fourth goal from the right, McLaren failing to get his foot on the ball." It was the worst possible start to Celtic's league career, but within weeks the match had been voided and Renton expelled from the league and the Scottish Football Association in a row over professionalism. Celtic and Renton had incurred the wrath of the SFA on the 31st of May 1890 by playing a benefit match at Celtic Park for James McCall, with 50% of the proceeds donated to the Little Sisters of the Poor. Renton's world champion team were reassembled for the occasion, with both McCall and James Kelly playing against Celtic for a team taking to the field as Old Renton. As most of the Old Renton team were now professionals based in England, permission was sought from SFA President Tom Park for the match to be played. He refused to rule on the matter, but informed both clubs his personal opinion was that the match should not go ahead. With the Business and Professional Committee unable to meet in time, the clubs decided to go ahead and play the match anyway, although officially Old Renton had no connection to Renton FC. Eventually, as no rule had been broken, the committee contented itself by censuring Celtic for playing Old Renton without permission, while both Kelly and McCall were given 3-match suspensions for turning out with the Old Renton professionals. Renton, on the other hand, escaped punishment because they had no official connection to the Old Renton team, who did not come under the SFA's jurisdiction. It was an open secret in Scotland that players were being paid, but it was being done so in such a manner as to present a facade of amateurism. Celtic had set up several of their players, including James Kelly, as publicans, so officially they made no money from football. Another way around the regulations was for players to be given nominal employment with local firms, where they would be paid somewhat higher wages than everyone else for jobs they rarely attended. The clubs paid the players via the firm, who would provide invoices for ghost services supplied to the club. The SFA had set up their Business and Professional Committee to deal with the issue, and in August 1890 audited the books of dozens of clubs, looking for breaches of the rules. After inspecting the accounts of St Bernard's, the association declared them professional and expelled them for 1 year. The St Bernard's Committee promptly formed a new club called Edinburgh Saints and were admitted to the East of Scotland FA, announcing they would be fulfilling all of St Bernard's fixtures for the season. A further meeting of the Professional Committee declared on the 17th of August 1890, "In the opinion of the Business and Professional Committee, the Edinburgh Saints is the same club as the St Bernard's, and, therefore, they decide that clubs under the jurisdiction of the Scottish Football Association cannot play them during their term of suspension." On the 27th of September 1890, Renton played the Edinburgh Saints in a friendly match, fulfilling an arrangement already made with St Bernard's. This time, there was no legal fiction for Renton to hide behind, and the SFA, still smarting over Renton's earlier escape, took strong action. The Business and Professional Committee declared that Renton were professional and suspended them from the association for 1 year. The Glasgow Evening Post reported on the 2nd of October 1890, "A committee meeting of the League was commenced last night in Aitken's Hotel when the case of Renton's suspension was considered. After discussion, it was decided that the official fixture, Renton v Heart of Midlothian, next Saturday could not take place under the auspices of the League. This decision is based upon Rule 8 of its constitution, which says that all matches shall be played under the rules of the Scottish Football Association." The full League Committee then decided that Renton could not take any further part in the league season and ordered the results of all matches they had played so far to be voided and expunged from the records. The incident was a key milestone in the adoption of professionalism in Scotland, and the decision of the SFA and Scottish League to expel Renton means that officially, Celtic's first ever league match never happened.